screen. At this time, let's go ahead and begin today's event. Once again, motivation, inspiring engagement for individuals and teams. I would like to introduce your moderator for today, and that is Christina Cleveland, Senior Director, Talent Development Solutions at Canadian Management Center. She has experience leading global project teams through complex leadership development implementations and partners with CMC clients to consult through the analysis and development of their leadership strategies. Christina, I'll hand the floor over to you.
Great, thanks so much, Jess, and hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on motivation, inspiring engagement for individuals and teams. For those of you who are returning to our webinar series, welcome back. For those of you who this may be your first time participating, we just want to introduce you to Canadian Management Center and to thank you for signing up to join us for the session today. So CMC is a premier talent transformation company, so we do work to partner with organizations and individuals to develop their professional skills. So we are focused on developing management and leadership training programs, communication and interpersonal skills, project management, as well as sales and marketing. And we're really excited to welcome you here today to focus on a topic that is extremely important to us, which is motivation and the topic of employee engagement. Today we are going to be active on Twitter, so if you do have a Twitter account and wish to tweet along with us, you can use our events hashtag, which is CMC Events, and feel free to also follow us at Canadian Management. After the session today, you will receive an email with a link to the recording of today's webinar, so that will give you access to be able to listen again to the session and some of the discussion that we'll be having today. We also will be rebroadcasting this webinar on future dates, so if you have any colleagues who weren't able to join us, you will have the opportunity to invite them to participate at a future date, and we'll share a little bit more about that with you later today. So why this topic? And when it comes to motivation and engagement, it's an important topic to many organizations across the country. CMC recently initiated an employee engagement study in partnership with Ipsos Reid, which was titled Build a Better Workplace. And within the study, we actually identify that there are several factors that are linked into employee engagement, or components of employee engagement. I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. So when it comes to employee engagement, the four components are involvement, satisfaction, alignment, and loyalty. And all of these components link into engagement. Based on the findings from our study, only 27% of Canadians are actually highly engaged. And engagement, of course, is a leading factor of performance and competitiveness within organization. Motivation is what taps into the willingness of your employees to expend what we call discretionary effort. And discretionary effort means that we get more than just a body showing up to work, but somebody who wants to contribute their heart and mind to the organization and who wants to make a meaningful contribution to the work that they're doing to ultimately contribute to organizational results. So I'm really excited to welcome today Dorothy Kudla, who is a facilitator with Canadian Management Center and delivers a number of programs within our leadership and management curriculum. I do know that many participants on the line have probably had the opportunity to work alongside with Dorothy either as a coach or a facilitator, and we're really thrilled that she's going to be with us today talking about this important topic. So I am going to transition the floor over to you, Dorothy, to get us started in reviewing what our agenda will be for today.
Thank you, Christina. Discuss this very critical aspect of today's leadership, and that is, of course, inspiring engagement. During our time today, we are going to take a look at what engagement really is and the elements that influence how people feel about what they do, what motivates individuals and teams, as well as what are some demotivators that we really need to watch out for. We will review the role of empowerment in motivation and also take a look at how generational diversity impacts the desire and willingness to do our best. One of our objectives today is to leave you with some practical strategies for motivating different types of individuals and teams. So, of course, a good place to start our discussion is looking at the definition of engagement. And so employee engagement is defined as how individuals or individual employees connect and align both emotionally and intellectually with their company and with its customers. The connection with the company very much includes a connection one has with their manager as well as leadership at all levels of the organization. So Christina mentioned this already, but really, why is engagement so important? Why are so many organizations focused on this aspect of their business? Generally speaking, I think that we all get engagement. We understand what it is because we know it for ourselves. We know what happens to us when we are connected emotionally and intellectually to something that we're doing, that we're performing. Think of something that you love to do. Can't wait to do it. Those activities are the ones you want to perform because you are happy and satisfied when performing them. That's the emotional part of it. And you understand why it's important to do them and how to do them, and that's the intellectual part. It is about voluntarily giving our discretionary effort and searching out more efficient ways of doing things. In short, really engagement equals productivity. The current reality is that many organizations are streamlining their resources and asking people to do more and faster, with less, of course. In my everyday work, I hear leaders tell me how maxed out their people are, how they cannot do any more or give any more effort. They're just simply too busy. Well, unfortunately, busy does not always equal productive, and so this is the dilemma. How do we get more with less? Engaged people are more focused, they take initiative, they tenaciously find new, better ways of doing things, and they work better on teams by tapping into multiple talents and skills. There's been so much research conducted to understand the link between engagement and productivity, and all conclude that productivity can as much as double when individuals and teams are motivated. So I want to take a look at how, as leaders, we can impact our employees' engagement to be more connected with the company and with the work that they do. So there are 4 elements to engagement. The first one is motivation, of course, and the desire and willingness to do something. Empowerment is about autonomy, which provides a sense of personal choice that helps people feel better and feel more in control over their tasks. Enablement is making something possible for someone, giving them the opportunity to do something to their best ability. In organizations, that often means removing obstacles, providing training, opening new doors, or helping people deal with red tape or bureaucracy. And of course, purpose. Purpose is about why does any of this matter? What is the greater purpose? This is about finding meaning in what we do.
That's great, Dorothy, and I'm really glad that you actually brought up some of these concepts, because empowerment and enablement, motivation and engagement all seem to be buzzwords that we hear, that people may feel stand on their own individually, but really what you're saying is that they all come together to connect in order to be able to drive engagement.
Right. And so we want to spend a little bit of time exploring each one of those elements, and really a foundational place to start is motivation. And so we have identified some keys to a motivated workforce, and I just want to briefly review some of those keys. There are often a lot of questions that I'm asked about how do we do this, how do we tap into what is really motivating or what can be motivating to my people. So we've been able to identify and zero in on 6 keys. The first key that we're going to take a look at is respect for team members. We often talk about the value of respect in all aspects of our lives. In the context of motivation, respect is about understanding and appreciating that all people are intelligent, that they have something unique to offer based on their education, their experience, their background. As leaders, we need to tap into that intelligence and explore it by asking questions, giving people space to process their thoughts, contribute, and stretch their minds. There's a really great quote by Bona. I love this quote, and some of you that are online that have worked with me before probably have heard this, but it goes something like this. It has been said that after meeting with the great Prime Minister Gladstone, you felt feeling he was the smartest person in the world. But after meeting with his rival, Benjamin Disraeli, you left thinking you were the smartest person in the world. This is how your people feel or can feel after your interactions. Think about that. After you spend some time with your employees, do they walk away feeling smarter, like their knowledge has been respected and that they actually were able to contribute, or do they feel less smart? Respecting others' intelligence can be a very humbling experience for leaders. It means not using our most treasured asset, which is our knowledge. In many respects, this is about letting go of our ego. The next key, and one that I think we all get, is setting goals and standards and time frames. If we don't know where we're going, how can we expect to get there? And of course, we all know that and have asked that question ourselves many times. This is a challenge in many organizations right now. Things are changing so fast, and tasks are often new or require a different approach. Therefore, it's hard for leaders to provide clear expectations. We need to help our people by defining the direction, even if it's very short term. There needs to be clarity so that there is alignment and therefore connection to the company. A good question to ask ourselves is, would my team members be able to articulate the goals, the direction, or what is expected of them? If the answer is yes, great. If the answer is maybe or no, we need to engage in those conversations. Ensure that there's clarity around direction. Just one other thing about goals is that they need to be seen as worth achieving. Goals and day-to-day tasks need to be linked to something bigger, a purpose, the so what. When leaders find meaningful ways to add purpose to the work of their people, they improve that work and create better teams. We will explore this key in a little bit more detail later on. Empowerment, well, big question. We are going to be spending a fair amount of time today talking about empowerment. Empowerment really relates to autonomy. Autonomy is linked to authority and how much freedom we give our people to complete a task. Leaders need to ensure that they give their people the right amount of authority. So how do we know what the right amount of authority is? Here's a blueprint, if you will. The higher the skill or ability to perform the task, the greater freedom should be granted. The lower the skill or ability, the leader needs to retain the authority. High authority means that employees have the go-ahead to perform a task on their own with little input. Little authority means that the task needs to be broken down into smaller pieces, and specific instructions need to be provided around when check-in points need to happen. So the important factor in the right amount of empowerment is the ability to perform the task. So let me give you an example of that. If I'm going on my first sales call, my very first sales call, or if I'm handling a client complaint for the very first time, or maybe completing my first month-end report, I will need closer supervision since my abilities to perform that task have not yet been demonstrated. Therefore, in order for me to succeed, I need lower level of authority. If I've handled the numerous calls, sales calls before, or client complaints, or submitted a report and met expectations in the past, my manager should not supervise me as much. I should be able to get on with the task and ask for support as needed. There's really no mystery to empowerment if we link it to the level of ability. To gauge someone's skill, leaders need to observe how and what tasks are being completed, or just ask the individual how would they go about completing that task. Of course, when people are empowered, they want to be involved. They want to be involved in problem solving and decision making. This is a very critical part of motivation. There's a great story that has been told for many years now, and it's about an incident at Ford Motor Company. Don Peterson, who then was the CEO of Ford, one day was walking the plant floor talking to some of the United Auto Workers about the Ford Quality Initiative. He was asking people's opinions and perspectives. Years later, he asked one of the workers what he thought about the initiative from perspective of time, and the worker replied, "I have worked for Ford for 25 years, and I have hated every moment of it until you asked me what I thought. That question transformed my life." That is a very strong statement about the power of involvement. There has been many studies conducted to understand motivators, and one of the strongest motivators that comes up is being in on things. This could be asking for opinions, letting people participate in debates about issues, or just talking about how something can be accomplished even after a decision has already been made. To connect people to the organization or team, they need to contribute wherever possible. Of course, we can't talk about motivation without talking about rewards. Rewards need to be based on achieving goals. The prerequisite to this key is having clear goals, standards, and timeframes, of course. Then we need to reward people based on performance. Yeah. Great. So one of the things that I'm often asked is about money, and is money the ultimate motivators? And so, leaders tend to focus on extrinsic rewards, and that's okay. People like that and appreciate it, extra money and gift cards, pizza dates, etc. But when we talk about motivation and engagement, that's really not enough. In fact, we need to be careful with extrinsic rewards. Sometimes they can have the opposite effect. They can actually demotivate. So as an example, let's take a pizza lunch. So every Friday of each month, my team or a team gets a pizza lunch. Great. But does it really motivate greater efforts? Can we seriously say that people work harder all month because they get a pizza lunch at the end of the month? Not so sure about that. But try take that pizza lunch away and watch how quickly people get demotivated. Extrinsic rewards are okay if it's not the only thing that we do to motivate others. Pay is important. Listen, don't get me wrong. Pay is important. People need to be paid well, and they need to be paid fairly. But if people are not engaged, oftentimes they will use money as currency. They will ask for more money because, simply put, if I have to be here and I don't want to be here and I have to work with these people and I don't want to work for these people, I better get something for it. So pay me more money.
A great point, Dorothy. And we've got over 1,300 people participating today. So we want to try and create interaction opportunities where we can. And we do invite you as we go through the session today, if you have questions, to submit them in the Q&A panel, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. And then there's also a chat panel. And what I'm going to invite you to do is actually in that chat panel, give us some of your feedback about what motivates you. So we're curious to hear some of your thoughts. Dorothy mentioned a couple of things. Some people say money is a motivator. Pizza may be a motivator for other people. Autonomy to do your work may be a motivator. So go ahead in the chat panel and just put in what motivates you. Just give us an indication of that, and we'll try to integrate some of your responses today. But in terms of the keys to a motivated workforce, Dorothy, I think that there are a couple of important components that you mentioned. And one of them ties into the employee engagement model that we referenced at the beginning of the session. So again, this model is from CMC and Ipsos Reid's 2012 study called Build a Better Workplace, where we actually surveyed over 1,200 Canadians and 484 HR professionals to get their view on what drives engagement in the workplace in Canada today. And so within the research that we conducted, the survey results helped us to actually build this employee engagement model. And these components of engagement, involvement, satisfaction, alignment, and then loyalty are all contributing factors. So when we start at the core in terms of employee engagement, really that outer ring, that gray ring of loyalty is really an outcome of engagement. So that's an employee's intent to stay with the organization. But Dorothy mentioned involvement as being one of the keys to a motivated workforce, and involvement is absolutely critical. So employees need to know that they are enabled to make a contribution to the organization. They want to be asked for their input. And when we think about generations in the workplace, which we're going to be talking about a little later, that's critically important. Alignment, so needing to know whether or not what the direction is of the organization, whether what I'm doing fits into the overall goals of the organization. So that kind of answers the why I'm doing what I'm doing component that Dorothy discussed. And then satisfaction is whether or not employees feel satisfied with their role and feel satisfied with their environment. So when you were mentioning, Dorothy, the pizza lunch, I would imagine to your point that maybe that isn't necessarily something that drives engagement, but if you were to take the pizza lunch away, it becomes a dissatisfier because people are no longer satisfied with their particular environment. So I just wanted to go through some of the responses that we're getting from the audience. We are about to open up a poll for you, but some of the things that people are saying in terms of what motivates them is flexibility in their work hours, flexibility in opportunities for training, getting access and opportunities to go to conferences, autonomy, respect, the potential to grow. Other people saying being part of a strong team with lots of interaction is what motivates me. Positive feedback or feedback in front of senior staff is what motivates me. Acknowledgement, the opportunity to contribute to projects. Appropriate compensation for the task completed. Even someone provided an example of getting a coffee card for extra time contributed. Recognition, more recognition, and knowing that my efforts make a difference to the bottom line. So you can see we're getting a lot of diversity in our responses in terms of what motivates us. So we are going to transition into opening up a poll for you, and we do want to know what your thoughts are in terms of what are the keys to a motivated workforce do you think is demonstrated very well within your organization, and then also which of the keys to a motivated workforce do you think is not demonstrated very well. So 2 questions posted on the right-hand side of your screen that you can answer. So again, we're just going back to the keys that Dorothy reviewed with us in terms of respect for team members, clear goals and standards, goals that are seen as worth achieving, involvement in problem solving, and then also rewards. So go ahead and answer the question about which of the keys to a motivated workforce you think is demonstrated well in your organization, and which of the keys you think is not demonstrated very well. So we'll just give it another 30 seconds to get your responses in. Lots of activity coming in terms of people submitting their responses. Right now it looks like in terms of keys to a motivated workforce seems to be in the lead is respect for team members, what is done very well. We're seeing a bit of a shift. And then in terms of which of the keys to a motivated workforce is not demonstrated very well, looks like clear goals and standards is taking the lead there. So we will go through and close the poll, so get those last responses in so that we can get our final results, and then we'll wrap things up. So Dorothy, looks like the top key of a motivated workforce is respect for team members in terms of what's done very well in the organization, and for which is not done as well, clear goals and standards and timeframes.
Well, it's really encouraging to see that respect for team members did rank quite high. I think that this is a very important element in motivating others, making them feel that their contribution is valued and is appreciated by the organization and the leaders. I'm really not surprised about clear goals, standards, and timeframes coming up as the sort of the area of development for many organizations. And I think that the fact that so many organizations are going through so many changes has a significant impact on this particular key. One of the things that we need to get better at as leaders in order to be able to address this key to a motivated workforce is to communicate more effectively, to communicate more often, and to have a greater connection with our people. You know, we'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, but sometimes communicating is as simple as saying that I have nothing to say. At this moment in time, I have nothing to say. What do you need from me? And so this is one area that actually we'll spend a little bit of time talking about. So let's look at this whole aspect of communication and connecting with our people. From a leadership perspective, when we're looking to motivate and engage others, we need to really get to know our people. Leaders must connect to their people through conversation. There's no shortcuts, no magic bullets. It's about intentionally and purposefully engaging in conversations, getting to know our people, not just about the task, but also about their values, their needs, and their beliefs. And so this is a big mystery, and oftentimes we don't, as leaders, don't even know where to begin. How do we tap into somebody's values, and how do we understand what motivates them? So I wanted to explore a few of the key values that can give us a greater insight into motivation. The first value that we'll tackle or take on is the personal goals. We want to make sure that we talk about personal goals and personal desires with our employees. We go through very different cycles in our lives. At times we are more career-focused or money-focused. Sometimes our families play a more important role. Leaders need to understand where the focus is at any given time and be adaptable where possible, linking the work with their goals and offering flexibility where appropriate so personal goals can be achieved. One of the comments that we've heard today as you're communicating with us is that you're looking for more flexibility, and this really aligns well with this particular value. If we want for our employees to bring their whole self into work, we need to take care of the whole person wherever possible. If we just take care of the work parts, we will get workers. You know, I'm here 9 to 5, and that's all you get out of me, period, right? So knowing where people are going, not just professionally, but also personally, can be a very important aspect of motivation. Leaders need to tap into people's beliefs and answer the question, is my work consistent with how I see things? This is about individuals' perspective of what is right and wrong. Our beliefs can be shaped by many things. One of the things that shapes our beliefs are our personality tendencies and our traits. These can be measured through different assessments. Some of you are very familiar with these assessments. I'm referring to tools such as DISC or 4DI. Some people believe that work needs to be done through people or with people. They value collaboration and input. We heard that again from some of the comments today. Some just want to get on the task and complete it on their own. For others, it's about quality, attention to detail, and problem solving. These assessments can be very helpful for leaders to get an insight into beliefs. Of course, another way to understand people's beliefs is by discussing likes and dislikes, asking them questions, sitting down, having great deep conversations with them. Questions like, what makes you happy at work? On bad days, what's going on? One of my personal favorites is, when you're at your best, what's happening around you? What's the team doing? What am I doing as your leader, or what am I not doing as your leader? Of course, having these conversations means that leaders need to be courageous and patient, especially if good, strong relationships have not been established with team members. However, it is one of the best ways to start building a trusting relationship with our employees. Earlier, we talked about autonomy, and although it is an important motivator for all, some individuals value power and control more than others. Power is not about ego. It's about our need for control, the need for decision-making. We need to understand to what degree someone desires control, and wherever possible, give them that autonomy. And so the next value that we want to talk about is the value of security. And this is one that's starting to play a more and more important role in many workplaces. Many organizations are going through changes, and they're reshaping and downsizing and shifting. And this really impacts how people view their security at work. Individuals are looking to see if the tasks that they are being asked to perform will change or threaten or reinforce the sense of security that they've established. The question we need to answer here is, does what you are asking me to do make me more vulnerable? What if I fail? Leaders need to make it safe for people to experiment, take risks without feeling threatened. You know, security is a fundamental human need that needs to be addressed, and in many respects, it is the first step to full engagement.
And in some cases, Dorothy, would security even extend to physical safety and security in your work environment?
Yes, sure. Do you want to?
Well, I think, depending on the industry, in some cases working in a safe environment is an important component for them, ensuring safety. With recent legislation that has come up within Canada, that's an important component to make sure that people are feeling safe and secure within their physical environment.
Right. Yeah, and that's really important that we evaluate how people view security at this moment in time in their workplace. So often we take it for granted. So it is a very important part of motivation and engagement. When people feel a sense of security, they want to be involved. There's varying desired levels of involvement. What a leader needs to look for here is how much involvement in decision and discussion does the individual really desire. Although everyone wants a degree of involvement, for some people, being in on decisions and discussions is critical for motivation. This is particularly important for those individuals that see themselves or that are subject matter experts. Involving them as an expert can be very motivating in those cases. And of course, recognition. We all want to be recognized. The key here is that we all have very different needs. And so we need to know how people are wanting to be recognized. Some like private recognitions and others prefer public. Perhaps just a thank you will suffice. By the way, research shows that saying thank you is one of the most effective ways to recognize contribution. Perhaps an email with a copy to a senior leader recognizing efforts or outcome. Bottom line is, if the recognition does not match the needs, it's not seen as recognition. We need to ask our employees what recognition means to them.
So we've got a question from a participant, Dorothy, just about, linked into either studies or in your experience, some of the rewards or recognition that are the best motivators for employees. Is there a correct answer, a more researched answer about what type of recognition or rewards is most motivating for employees?
I think the starting point for motivating recognition is one that is linked to specific action or specific outcome. The days of good job, well done, that's really all gone. It's nice to hear, but really it has very little meaning to people. So we need to make sure that we link whatever recognition we give with something that's very tangible and specific. In terms of some of the what for recognition, I mentioned some of those. Actually, it was interesting because I think some of the people participating in this webinar also gave some ideas earlier. about how they like to be recognized. So being recognized by senior leadership is definitely one of the key ways that we can recognize individuals. Being in on things is also a way to recognize individuals. Giving people rewards, but specific rewards, or that may be an extrinsic benefit, is also a good form of recognition. I think that there is no one answer to this. It is really based on what the individual sees as valuable recognition. And so we need to connect and we need to have these conversations with our people.
So it comes back to your earlier point about understanding your people.
Right.
I'm curious to know about whether or not you have had experiences where you have good intentions to recognize somebody and say, give them a gift certificate for a spa, give them a gift certificate for, a shopping center, whatever it may be, but that gift certificate is not well received. It actually ends up offending the employee. Can you talk a little bit about how rewards that we may give to an employee might end up having a negative effect or reverse effect than what we intended?
So just for the record, if anybody ever is considering to give me a gift certificate to a spa, I'm open to that, okay? Just so we put it out there. But yes, recognition, such things as gift cards, or it needs to be, again, linked to what the person's interests are as well. And so if I know, as an example, if I know that someone really enjoys going to a spa and I give them a spa certificate, that's a great match. And in this particular case, it can work. So what we want to do here is we want to link as much as possible extrinsic benefits or rewards with intrinsic needs. And so a combination or a powerful combination of these two could be, I'm asking someone to come in on the weekend to help me with a specific project, and I want to recognize that they've done this and I want to reward them. During my time working with them during that weekend, I will ask the question, geez, if you were at home right now, what would you be doing? And if the answer is, not much, I'd be cleaning the house at this moment in time, which is probably what I would be doing. A good reward, a good way to recognize the effort, perhaps, might be an extrinsic reward, such as offering or purchasing a gift certificate for a cleaning company. So what we're doing here is we're linking something that's extrinsic to something that is meaningful to that particular individual. Those types of rewards, that type of recognition has the longest shelf life and probably taps into the motivation the faster.
Okay, great.
So the days of carrot and stick are pretty much over. We don't respond to rewards or reprimands in the same way as we used to. We used to think that extrinsic rewards were the key to motivation. Today we know that intrinsic motivators, which are value-based, have more of an impact. An important aspect to engagement that we really need to keep in mind is the team as well. There needs to be focus not only on the individual, but also ensure that the team works well together, works efficiently together. People want to succeed and want to also be part of a winning team. As leaders, we need to constantly look at both tracks, dual tracks, the track of the individual and the track of the team. I have this analogy or this metaphor that I like to use here to demonstrate the importance of a team vis-a-vis the individual. And so this metaphor that I use is the metaphor of a garden. Now, I know if you're living in most places in Canada, you might have forgotten what a garden looks like because we haven't had the opportunity to see one in a very long time. But if we just think about a garden for a moment, when we look at a perennial garden from a distance, we see the entire composition of individual plants and flowers. If it's a nice garden, we appreciate its beauty and the joy that it brings to us. However, that garden is made up of individual plants that all need different attention, different levels of nurturing. This is like a team. Teams are made up of individuals with different needs, wants, and values, but altogether they create the outcome. Therefore, equal attention needs to be given to both. When we look at motivating teams, we need to make sure that we tackle three things. Teams need to have a common goal. Effective teams have clear objectives that they understand and that they are committed to. This understanding extends to the overall impact the goal has on the team and the organization. As a manager, are you regularly meeting and communicating the team's goals and priorities? Are you supporting your team's goals? Are people encouraged to achieve the goals? Do they have the tools to be able to achieve the goals? On healthy teams, communication is critical. People are open to suggestions, information is shared, and everyone participates. Leaders' role is to provide the space for idea sharing and expression of feelings. Think about this. Are you team members being heard? Even if you cannot help their situation, showing that you are listening and that you care can do wonders for your team's engagement. The last element of engaged teams that we need to take into consideration is the relationship bit of it. Effective teams trust and value each other. Disagreements are issue-related, not personality-focused. When disagreements do arise, they are solved objectively in real time and do not impact the effectiveness of a team. How conflict is handled on your team, how does it hinder the progress, needs to be evaluated by all leaders. So, we're sort of doing a brief overview of the aspects that we need to take care of when we're looking at a team: goals, communication, and relationship. I'm not quite sure if there are any comments or questions that are coming out about this area.
Yeah, well, I'll just encourage everyone and remind everyone again, the Q&A panel is on the right-hand side of your screen, so if you have questions related specifically to motivation and engagement for teams, feel free to submit them, or any other questions for that matter. But Dorothy, I just wanted to ask you, goals, communication, and relationships are important components within a team environment, but there may be different types of teams. You may have a project team or a work team that is focused on a specific project or goal, so the individuals who are contributing members are working towards a specific vision. But you may also have teams of individuals who are working on different elements or different things, but they're a part of the same team or a part of the same department, but they may not be working on a specific project. So how does a leader need to work on factoring in individual motivation for the individuals, and then also team motivation, where if you hit a milestone as a team, you may celebrate together as a group, but you may have individuals who have their own unique needs and motivators?
Well, in short, we need to do both. The truth is that the reality is that when teams work on specific projects, where teams are brought together for specific projects, it's easier to actually motivate those teams because there's usually very clear set of goals and objectives and desired outcomes, and those desired outcomes are discussed often, and progress is updated. The team communicates usually more effectively because there might be less baggage from previous working relationships. And there's overall trust because everyone understands how we all contribute, each member of the team contributes to the success of the project. So generally speaking, when teams come together for a specific project, there's natural motivators that are present there. When teams are not working on specific projects, it's a team that just co-works together on a regular basis. This becomes more challenging for leaders. That's why traveling on those dual tracks is so important. Understanding what do my individuals need and how does that link to the overall desired outcome of the team and the goals of the team.
Okay, great. So maybe we could transition to talking a little bit about generational diversity and how that plays into motivation and what leaders need to consider.
Okay, let's do that. Usually there's a lot of appetite for discussion, for this discussion over generational diversity. And I just want to be clear that while we cannot stereotype the generations to say that they all act a specific way, research has unveiled trends which are generally seen across the generations. As it relates to motivation and engagement, there are various things that we can do to help and support our generationally diverse work groups. So if we take a look at these generations, just a very quick overview, we'll take a deeper dive into each one of the cohort shortly. But let's take a look at the first generation, traditionalists. So this generation, the current age is 68 years or older, and although it is now the smallest group in the workplace, it still continues to have some influence, and it still needs to be taken into consideration. In fact, many traditionalists in some of the organizations hold the very most senior positions in those organizations. In addition, there is a return back to the workforce in this generation. People are coming back on contracts, or they're coming back as consultants. So we need to take this generation into consideration. Baby boomers, well, they're now between 49 and 67. It is still the largest population. It is still the largest generation, currently having the greatest influence on the workplace because of its sheer size and the fact that majority of the top positions in organizations are occupied by this group. Generation X, roughly 33 to 48. This is a very interesting generation. I'm sure we're going to have some good discussion about this generation. They are beginning to have more influence in the workplace as they start to occupy more senior positions. And then there's Generation Y, so 33, 32 and under. They're coming fast and furious into the workplace and making their mark, fast. They are not necessarily in decision-making positions yet. However, they are very confident about their success. So I'm going to hand this over to Christina now.
I think we're going to open up another poll and just ask you, which generational cohort do you find most challenging to motivate in your workforce or within your experience as a leader? So we'll see how those responses come in. And while we're doing that, actually, Dorothy, we've got a question about whether, what role does gender play in terms of a difference in terms of how to motivate males or females? Does it play a role? Or does that come back to needing to understand individuals again?
I think that there's a lot of books and a lot of research about the gender and gender differences and gender needs, and so that research has been done. And if anyone is interested in learning more about that, it's out there. I think that in terms of motivation and workplace, there are other things that play a bigger role, a more important role that we need to consider other than gender. Personality traits, I talked about that earlier, like using assessments like DISC or 40i, generational diversity. I think those are factors that actually play a bigger role. They sort of trump the gender needs.
Okay. So coming back to our generational cohort question, I think we've got a clear indicator that the majority of the individuals who are participating today feel Gen Y is the most challenging cohort to motivate, with close to 57% of our audience stating that. So I am curious to know why you feel that way. So coming back to the chat panel, if you wouldn't mind just giving us your thoughts on why you find Gen Y to be the most challenging generational cohort to motivate, that would be helpful for us just to kind of get some context on what your thinking is. So again, Gen Y is within the workforce, to Dorothy's point. These are the millennials. These are the individuals who are coming into the workforce now very actively. And some interesting comments coming in from participants. Good senses of humor. So different values and work ethics, sense of entitlement. Some I can't read. They may have a poor work ethic. Again, sense of entitlement seems to be coming up clear. Some are indicating that Gen Y seem to be less motivated or engaged. People may expect results before they actually do the job. So they want it all, but they don't have the experience yet. Some indicating Gen Y has been praised continually during their childhood, so they expect that in the workplace. May not have loyalty to the organization. People are getting a lot off their chest here. Looking at getting critical feedback can have a significant impact on these individuals. They're not responding very well to feedback, and they want different things in the workplace in terms of work-life balance. Some comments about Gen Ys being distracted by social media. They want to be the president yesterday. Listening skills is perceived to be a challenge for this generation. So a lot of perceptions about Gen Y. So maybe we can focus a little bit more time and attention on that particular generational cohort, on what their expectations are and how to motivate them.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. Can I just see what the second one was?
Second one was a far second, and it's baby boomers at 18%.
Wow. It's very interesting. So I think that Generation Y is a generation that's somewhat misunderstood. Yes, we have some challenges when we try to motivate and lead this generation, mostly because they have very different needs and values from Generation X in particular. So interestingly enough, just a little bit of a background, baby boomers and Generation Y, the millennials, actually have quite a bit in common. And if the synergies, if we can work the synergies on the team in the organizations, it can actually be quite powerful. So let me just get into some of the specifics of Generation Y. This is a generation that is very fast-paced. They like change. They've grown up with things changing, technology, of course, being the big influencer of that. So they like things moving fast. They like feedback. So somebody made that comment already. They like feedback, lots of feedback, because they've grown up with a lot of feedback. They were encouraged to express their thoughts and their opinions. And so when they come into workplace, they want to continue to do that. They want to continue to express and give their opinions and thoughts on different issues. One of the things that is really critically important for this generation is the context of experience. This generation wants to learn from others. So there's a bit of a misunderstanding around that because we think that they want to use technology for everything. They do want to use technology for everything, but only if the technology is interactive, if it's two-way. One of the reasons for that is because they don't tend to have as high of a trust level for technology or more specifically things that they can learn from the internet. Part of it because they know who puts that information on the internet. So of course, they're a little bit skeptical and trusting. So what they need is they need the context of experience. They want to learn from others. How do we tap into some of these motivators? We mentor. Mentorship programs work particularly well with this generation. They want work to be challenging and ever-changing. They do need to have constant feedback from us. Just to remember, from us as leaders, just to remember that when we do all of these things, engagement will increase, and therefore it will be much easier to work with this generation and to motivate this generation. The nice fit here is when we look at baby boomers, and baby boomers, as I understand, the distant second, but when we look at baby boomers, one of the things that baby boomers are looking to do right now is to share their experiences and their expertise in the workplace. So that's a really great combination between the wants of Generation Y and the needs of the baby boomers. Baby boomers like to have recognition, actually extrinsic benefits if they work on anyone, probably work best on baby boomers, and that is one of the reasons why there is a focus on extrinsic benefits in the workplace because, of course, baby boomers are the influencers as it is right now.
And we have some individuals commenting just about the dynamics of the results that we received, and some folks indicating that baby boomers may be looking to retire, so they're not necessarily motivated to share. What are your thoughts on whether or not that is the case for baby boomers?
Well, we know from some of the research that has been done, but also personally working with different organizations and the different generations, baby boomers are motivated and do want to be acknowledged for their experience. And we need to tap into that. If we can tap into that well, and what I mean by well, structuring, having a formal mentorship programs in organizations, we can really tap into their motivation. So I think that in some respects we disregard some of the individuals in that generation. We think about them in terms of, oh, they're ready to retire, and so, you know, that's fine, they're not interested. That often is not the case, and I know that from just working and having my own experience with that generation. So I think it's critically important that we don't discount anyone, that we actually acknowledge what they bring to the workplace and bring them in and connect them back into the workplace.
Well, I think that comes back to your initial point, right, which is in terms of understanding your people. So you need to understand their unique characteristics and what motivates them, because we could say that traditionalists or baby boomers could be stereotyped as saying, well, they don't like new technologies that are coming out, and Gen Y, you know, is all about technology. Yeah. But, you know, in my world, my father, who would fit into a traditionalist category, is more on the up and up with technology and his iPad and iPhone than I am. So I think, you know, it really does depend on the specific individual, and we have to come back to getting to know them.
Absolutely. My mom is the most active Facebook member of the entire family, and we love it. Yes, absolutely right.
And there's some speculation from those who are participating on the chat as well about whether or not the majority of those who are on the webinar today might be in the Gen X cohort, and that's why there is some challenge with baby boomers or with Gen Y, and that we do know that Gen X is seen as this new sandwich generation.
Right.
So baby boomers used to be that sandwich generation, and now Gen X is seen in that way, and actually the results of our Build a Better Workplace research indicated that Gen X is the generational cohort that might be struggling the most with engagement right now in the workforce. So they want to be involved, and they're not being asked for their input. They may be struggling with work-life balance, or seeing the baby boomers ahead of them working, very long hours and not wanting to take on those particular roles. So it's a lot of interesting dynamics, but it comes back to understanding your people.
Yes, absolutely. Just a quick word on Generation X and just some of the differences, the key differences that we need to acknowledge and take into consideration. Generation X is a very independent generation. They like to be task-focused. They're not too big on team dynamics. Sure, they like to have relationships in the workplace, but they really like to get on to the task individually, independently. They really want and appreciate flexibility. Their work-life balance is very important to them, and they're not willing to sacrifice that. So this generation is a little bit different in that baby boomers like collaboration and they like team environments. Generation Y also works really well in teams, working with people, collaborating with people. Generation Y tends to prefer to do things independently. So tell me what I need to know, tell me who are the people on my team, and let's just get on with the task. So there's a bit of a difference between those two generations and baby boomers. And Gen X.
Okay. Now, I do know that there's a lot of chatter, again, happening in the chat panel and also on Twitter about gender. So we'll see if we can come back to talking about gender. But we have had a question from a participant as well about the motivation as a leader. So what do you do to, how can you motivate other people if your motivation has been eroded as well by your work environment?
Yeah, so we need to do whatever it takes to re-engage ourselves, to find our passion back. It's very hard for us to motivate others when we ourselves are not motivated. Leaders need to put the oxygen mask on themselves first before they can help others. I would encourage you to apply some of what we talked about today for yourself. Ask your manager for the support you need. Seek out the answers that you need. This can be frustrating and often is very frustrating for leaders, because they don't get what they want. It could cause some resentment down the line. My advice to leaders is to be clear, decide and be clear on who you want to be as a leader and how you want others to see you as a leader, and don't allow other people's behaviors to influence who you are. Stay true to yourself. So if that means that you need to find different ways to re-engage, to find the passion back, find those ways for yourself. Know what you need, because that comment is absolutely bang on. If we're not motivated, it's hard to motivate others.
Okay. So we're going to turn our attention to the Q&A panel again, just to review a few questions as we move into the final moments of the webinar. So we do have a question from an attendee just about, who pays for things like spa days and pizza lunches and gift certificates. So some people may not have budgets available to cover this type of rewards. So maybe you can come back to talking about non-monetary rewards that could be offered to employees.
Yes, and the reality is that most companies now are looking at the costs and expenses, and so there's less and less access for people to actually have the funds for this. But remember that extrinsic benefits are not necessarily where we want to focus. We do want to go back to the intrinsic, the values, aligning people's work with their personal beliefs, with their personal goals, giving them a sense of security, empowerment. So we want to tap into those intrinsic needs.
Okay, great. And so because the gender analysis component is a hot topic, Dorothy, I do want to just come back to it. And, people asking whether or not, things need to be done differently for females. Do we need to look at mentorship opportunities or, providing opportunities to help them understand a career path? But the same could be expected for males in the workforce as well. So do you have any additional thoughts as it relates to gender or how that fits into the scope of engagement and motivation?
I think that the same conversation to the same depth, the same level need to be had with both genders. And so that's where some of the issues might be. I don't think anything needs to be done differently. I think that both genders need to be given equal time and have the opportunity to give input and to be heard. And that's sort of how I see the gender issue.
Okay. And so when it comes to Gen Y, again, another question that has come in is about how do you manage the expectations of Gen Ys that are coming in that may want high-paid positions, want to move up through the ranks really quickly? How can an employer manage expectations with Gen Y?
That's a really great question, actually. You know what I found in some of the work that I do, that Gen Ys, when they're asking for promotions, they often ask for promotions because it means that there would be a change in what they do. And the currency or the speak in many organizations, how do I get to do different things? How do I learn more? Is through promotions. And so providing opportunities for Gen Ys or anyone, any generation, to work on cross-functional teams in different departments. The drive, the need behind this very often is about the change, the need for change and learning, rather than moving up in the organization. So when we're talking about money, of course that's an issue. This generation is up and coming. They're investing now. They're creating lives, so money is becoming more important. We need to make sure that we take care of that. But in terms of promotion, oftentimes it's really just about giving people opportunities to learn new and different things.
Okay.
So in summary, just wanted to go back to some of the things that we covered. To inspire engagement leaders, as leaders we need to uncover what are the keys to motivation, getting to know our people by understanding their values and really what makes them tick, and adapt our approach to meet their specific needs around their values. And when your people are engaged, everything gets easier. The conversations are open and honest, conflict is resolved faster, and overall work environment is friendlier and happier.
Okay, great. So Dorothy, I know that we could spend far more than an hour on this particular topic, but we're so grateful for you providing your insights and thoughts on the topic of motivation and engagement, so thank you for your time. And for those of you who have been participating in the chat panel and through the Q&A panel with the polls, thank you so much for your ongoing participation. Because this is such a big topic, Canadian Management Centre has dedicated a lot of focus to this within our catalog, so you can find more information on our website. And the results of our Build a Better Workplace research are now available. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, please do look at the link on our website at cmcoutperform.com/Build a Better Workplace report. And again, in that report, we're looking at employee engagement across the country, and also there are organizational components of leadership and communication that feed into that. There's also some strategies and solutions that are made available within this report as well. So again, visit our website to get additional details. And do tell us what you think about our webinar today. So we'll look forward to getting any suggestions or comments that you have. Your feedback definitely helps to shape future webinars. So we'll look forward to hearing from you, and that survey will be available to you as you wrap up in the session today. And then lastly, please do check out our website for any additional access to resources. Our website again, cmcoutperform.com. And for those of you who participated today, you will receive access via email to a recording from today's session. And we will rebroadcast this webinar again on July 10th, as well as on August 14th. So if you know anyone who might benefit from participating again in a rebroadcasted session, please do invite them to join us, and you can get access to that through our website and in the CMC events section. So thank you so much for participating, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you again online in the future.